A giant disaster fell into the lap of the Iranian regime after forces aligned with Tehran shot down a United States drone in Yemen and turned a military provocation into a direct test against Trump. On the morning of this Monday, May 18, 2026, Iran seems to have forgotten the brutal retaliation that United States forces carried out after a similar event happened. And now this Iranian provocation is even bigger because drones also crossed paths with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. What seemed like just another militia action turned into a dangerous message for the White House because the American drone was not there by chance. It was part of the United States military surveillance in a region taken over by armed groups, financed and trained by the Iran-backed Axis. Now Trump has a strong reason to escalate the response against Tehran's allies and put the regime in a position that no American enemy would want to be in. I'll tell you all about it in a moment, but right now you'll want to subscribe to the channel to stay well informed, real-time information with the best journalistic quality you've ever seen. Milson Alves, the standard of credibility. The American drone was in a region used by the Holts as a base for military pressure against the United States, Israel, and Gulf allies. The information released by international outlets is that the aircraft was reportedly shot down over Marib in eastern Yemen, with images of the wreckage circulating after the impact. The Xinhua agency reported that the news came from Iranian media and highlighted that up until publication there was no official confirmation from the United States about the loss of the aircraft. The Anadolu agency also reported that local media reported the crash of an American MQ-9 Reaper in the same province. The group that claims power in Yemen is part of the armed network that Tehran uses to pressure the region without taking on the full cost on the front lines. The Holts had already been attacking ships, threatening maritime routes, and trying to show that they still have the capability to target American equipment. The downing of the United States drone is not just a material loss. It's a calculated provocation toward Washington as Trump presses Iran to move quickly and signals patience is running out. The problem for the Iranian regime is that this provocation is happening when the entire region is already heated up. Reuters reported that Saudi Arabia intercepted 3 drones that entered its territory through Iraqi airspace. The Saudi Ministry of Defense said it will take the necessary operational measures to protect its sovereignty and security. This detail is important because it shows that the attacks are not concentrated in a single location. They appear in Yemen, in the Gulf, and on the route between Iraq and Saudi Arabia, always near areas connected to American interests. The United Arab Emirates have also become a central focus of concern. Reuters reported that a drone attack caused a fire at the Baraka nuclear plant with no injuries and no radiological damage, according to the information released. Someone decided to test the limits at a sensitive facility of a nation allied with the United States. The International Atomic Energy Agency confirmed the safety of the facility and called for military restraint near nuclear structures, but the political damage was already done. What Iran and its allies were doing becomes clear from the sequence of events. They were trying to maintain regional pressure while negotiating with Washington through other channels. The American drone shot down in Yemen. The drones intercepted by Saudi Arabia and the attack in the United Arab Emirates appear as parts of the same tactic, to wear them down, gauge Trump's reaction, and force concessions at a time when the Iranian regime wants relief from the naval blockade, sanctions, and nuclear negotiations. Trump has already taken action in Washington. Reuters reported that Pakistan delivered a revised Iranian proposal to the United States in an attempt to end the war, while the negotiations remain stalled on key points. Iran wants a broad end to hostilities, compensation for damages, withdrawal of naval pressure, and guarantees against new attacks. On the other side, the United States is demanding real progress on Iran's nuclear program and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. If the Iranian Axis shoots down an American drone while calling for negotiations, then the regime wants to talk about peace with one hand and test military strength with the other. This is the contradiction that irritates Trump, and it strengthens the faction that advocates for a firmer response. The international media itself reported that Trump warned that the clock is ticking for Iran to reach an agreement. The pressure at sea has already brought results. The Wall Street Journal reported, based on a statement from CENTCOM, that American forces had diverted 70 commercial ships in the first month of the blockade and disabled 4 to ensure compliance with the orders. Critical threats recorded that the number reported by CENTCOM had already risen to 81 redirected vessels and 4 disabled since the beginning of the blockade of Iranian ports on April 13. This blockade explains why Iran is trying to spread tension through allies and militias. Tehran is under direct pressure on its money, oil and supply routes, while Trump tries to force the regime to choose between a serious agreement or growing isolation. The response from the Iranian Axis plays out in asymmetric warfare: drones, allied groups, threats in sensitive routes, and attacks that do not fully bear the signature of the Iranian government. In Yemen, the Houthis serve as the operational arm of this strategy. When an MQ-9 Reaper goes down over Marib, the message is not confined to the Yemeni desert. The drone is used by the United States for surveillance and intelligence gathering in high-risk areas. The Houthis try to show that they can break through the American presence and fuel the propaganda of the Iranian Axis, but this propaganda can come at a high cost. Trump has a clear political path after this episode. He can increase military pressure against Houthi structures in Yemen, further tighten the blockade against Iran, and speed up support to Gulf allies. Saudi Arabia also comes out more exposed. The drones that entered through Iraqi airspace reveal an uncomfortable gap on the regional map. Even when intercepted, they force Riyadh to raise its readiness, strengthen its air defense, and consider a response at the moment it deems appropriate. For Trump, this is of interest because it brings Gulf allies closer to the US position. The more the Iran-backed Axis pushes the envelope, the easier it becomes for Washington to organize a regional front against Tehran. The United Arab Emirates follow this same logic. A drone hitting a nuclear facility, even without causing radiological damage, is the kind of option that changes the security climate. It doesn't have to become a catastrophe to prompt a political decision. It's enough to show that the chosen target was too sensitive. For the American government, this kind of attack helps to support the argument that Iran and its allies cannot receive relief while they continue to test limits at strategic points. Pakistan is trying to work out a diplomatic solution, but time is working against this negotiation. The Iranian proposal was withdrawn, and the revised version reached the Americans as events were moving in another direction. Diplomacy may continue, but now it has to compete with military pressure and public demand for a response. If the White House concludes that the downing of the drone was another provocation coordinated by the Iran-backed Axis, the response may come in layers: tighter blockade, attacks against the military infrastructure of allied groups, and a new direct warning to Tehran. Trump will still allow Tehran to negotiate at the table, while its allies test the United States in the air, at sea, and on the Gulf borders. I'm Milson Alves, an international affairs specialist, and my purpose is to keep you well informed with the truth every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves community.